The reason why I tell people consistency over perfection is because if I'd waited till I perfected my craft, I wouldn't be here. I probably wouldn't have started. Most of the time you just have to start and figure it out from there. And the thing with consistency, if you do a thing every single day, you're eventually going to get good at it. And the thing about being great is starting anything is you're going to suck. Like the first time you do anything, you're going to suck.
Speak for yourself.
Shabuya, roll call.
Justin,
Shabuya, yeah, Shabuya, roll call.
Justin,
My name is
you're in this
Justin.
alone.
Do that every time a camera's rolling. But hey, check this out. What do y'all think about the house?
Dude, it's dope.
This is a very nice house.
dope.
Yeah, it's very to have so many rooms in here is very misleading.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
walking down this hall and I'm like, there's a room here.
It keeps going.
It just keeps going.
Were you able to look in? Because I know you came in at night.
Around. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was, as we were picking this spot out, wanted to make sure it was up to everyone's standards, especially Kelsey's.
Honestly, thank you. Because I'm very suspicious of all spaces.
Yeah.
Okay? I have my own sheets in there, y'all.
No, do you actually?
Yeah.
You bring pillows too?
I bring a pillowcase.
Did you hear her
Yeah, I
ask
know a lot of
about the
people that do.
sponge?
No, I missed that.
Sponge.
What
She
did you say?
goes, do you think the sponge is new?
Wait,
I
guess
would
in the bathroom?
imagine. I don't
No,
think
in
they'd
the
give us an
kitchen,
old
sometimes,
sponge.
it looks new, but is it fresh out the pack?
Have you ever done
Is it?
Okay.
No, it's
No,
a
but you know what that
very
is about.
valid thing.
That is
That's
about.
a valid
Yeah.
thing.
Have you done hostels? Like, have you ever done backpack or
No.
anything like that?
I mean, I've camped. I'm not that she, but it's just my biggest thing is not trusting people to care about something clean for me. Like, why would you
Yeah,
care if
that's
it's just
real.
a job for you? So,
Yeah.
That's real.
Fair enough.
yeah.
I went into that because you never know how low you can live until you travel through hostels.
And you survived
Oh
it.
my God.
I've stayed in a nice hostel before, though,
Where?
So this
in
reminds
Miami.
Really?
But it's Miami. I was in Guatemala and the hostels there,
So before CT, maybe even a year or two before CT, I was involved in another venture, and I spent some time out in the Bay Area, specifically in Berkeley, right down the street from the university. I guess was that UC Berkeley, and I was in an Airbnb and I rented a room for a month, 2 months, and the room itself just had a mattress in it. It was chip paint on the walls, and it was one bathroom that I had to share with 2 other grown men, and one of them had a girlfriend. And when I tell you, this was almost like a trap house.
Yeah.
And it literally cost almost $2,000 a month.
what? Oh, because
Yeah.
of the area?
Yeah, because of the area, because that's the Bay Area. And I was like, man, this is rough.
Yeah.
This is rough. So it just reminded me of that when you started talking about a hostel and staying in one.
Dude, that's happening in Canada right now.
Really?
The housing crisis in
Yeah, I
Toronto,
believe it.
Brampton, it's bad.
Yeah. Cool beans, man. Well, welcome to another episode of Heavy on Brand. We just been kind of kicking it. We got a lot of stuff that we've been covering during our time here. But as we've been talking about with other shows, we want to dig more into content and the why behind why you should create content in a very specific way. And so on this one, we're kind of talking about going into the essence of what your story is about your brand. And just so that we're clear, brand doesn't only mean a company. It really means individually how you operate, what people say about you, how people perceive you. And I think that scales up and down, whether you're a small business, medium-sized business, or even a Fortune 500. Everyone has some level of a brand. And the more that you can lean into that story and you're in an authentic way, I think the better. So that's what we've really been trying to help clients just kind of work with and work towards. My first question is going to go towards Morgan, who is the new person on the set for this episode right now. Who I'm just going to call you Jack of all trades, but for CT, you're a content manager or something else. You just get it done.
Coordinate.
You just get shit done. But you have a talent of writing and really leaning into stories behind people, concepts, whatever it may be. What have you seen been, I guess from your perspective, how important has it been that companies or even individuals that you've come connected to or projects, how important is it for them to really take their time to try to understand who they are and spend time crafting what that narrative is for themselves?
I mean, I would say, and I'm coming at it, I guess, more from like a consumer perspective as well, is like, why should I care? Like, we're, as you know, Kelsey mentioned in a previous episode, like, everything's so oversaturated. There's so much of everything everywhere all the time. And so you have to really get people to understand who you are individually and uniquely and why they should care about what you're doing to, I think, capture their attention, capture their loyalty, like make them want to engage with you more. And so I feel like with a lot of the brands that we work with, that I came in, you know, in the midst of it, and I've learned more about what they do. It's really cool, and it's very interesting, and their personalities shine through as well. Some people we work with are really funny, like, you know, and despite the fact that the work they do is so serious. And I think that in itself is very special. Having a personality is huge, and I think especially when you're trying to come across virtually, when people haven't met you or they're not feeling the vibrations in person, being able to convey that through a camera is huge. And I think that's kind of what we try to do and like bring out of people, whether it's women on the street things or like newsroom things, or instead of just kind of stiffer situations. So yeah, that's been my experience, I feel like.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that, but I want to make sure I'm not rude. They said I didn't introduce them the last time, so I want to introduce everyone else on the couch. Again, we have Kelsey, who is.
I feel like I was introduced the first time.
Yeah, they said I.
Yeah, exactly. We said we weren't sure.
Yeah. So I'm just making sure. We have Kelsey, who's on the couch with us, who's digital marketing expert, strategist, all things marketing and comms, and Justin, who's our amazing content creator and just life of the party, you know? And you just met Morgan. So my question or a comment that I wanted to make, and I think anybody can chime in on it, is I remember that one session that we had, or one client that we were working with, where we shot a bunch of content with them for a week, and we were building out the full like shot list and everything. And I'll never forget you just kind of jumping in and being like, oh, I want to take a stab at like helping to craft the storyboard around a lot of this stuff. And I was like, initially I was like, I don't know. And this was before I knew like what you was working with. So, but I was like, you know what, go for it. And by the time I went back in and looked at it, I was like, oh man, she really took the time to make sure she understood like, all right, this client is trying to communicate this. This is what we're trying to convey across to an audience, and let's make sure that what we're sequencing is done the right way from a story standpoint. Did you just automatically just go in and like that was just the approach that you were going to take, or?
If I'm thinking of the right situation, I think it was because I was coming in and I didn't fully understand, so it helped me get it. And sometimes when you make something make more sense to yourself, it actually helps like smooth things out, I think, across the board. And so I think that's what I did.
And
just
the perspective too. Like we were talking about like being in your client's organization enough to understand it, but out of it enough to say, hey, I know you think this is important and this is important, but I think other consumers, other potential supporters, other members would care a little bit more about this. Or maybe we should lay it out in this way so you can say the things that you really are passionate about, but we hit these other points that are more broadly, maybe a little more interesting.
Yeah, I think that's exactly.
And to that point, it's really good to be really involved in the actual work that you're doing. Because I know a lot of people, I mean, you guys probably know this, like a lot of people in this industry, they really are just looking for like the next dollar, and they'll just do whatever the client wants. And like the work will turn out okay, or it'll turn out good. But the people that we work with, the brands that we work with, we want to make sure the stuff that we're doing is great. We want to make sure that oh, we're proud of the work that we produce. We're proud of the growth. We see the content that we put out, that you wrote out, that you like continuously like put your like blood, sweat, and tears into, and we see the thing grow. So like ultimately, if we are involved, like we're just as much a part of the process as they are.
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm sorry, were you about to say something?
I was just going to say, and I think pride is a huge part of it as well, because if you're not, you know, gonna like it or share it or whatever, why, you know, how are you gonna expect somebody else to?
like
So
or share it,
so like make sure the stuff that you're working on, the stuff that you're doing, the stuff that you're putting time and money into is actually stuff that you are proud of and support and like, want to share.
We did have this conversation though over in Chicago. We have the people that are shooting, you have to be careful because at the end of the day, it's not your baby.
Yeah.
So like the content that I create, it's like mixing pot of like your idea, their idea, my creativity. Like I'm obviously me and my team were actually shooting the thing, but I can't be so like in my own head, like I know what's best. I'm creating this. I got to be proud of it. No, like this is a thing that we're building collectively. But I do agree to a certain extent, be proud of the work that you do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've worked with countless creators who are so, and I say this, I really don't know any other way to say it, but they're so egotistical about their work that it makes it tough to collaborate with them. And people just don't understand. It's like, hey, there needs to be a bit of give and take. Just because you may not necessarily have come up with the idea, it doesn't mean that your value is diminished or is any less, right? So I'll never forget that, because that's honestly one of the things that, you know, I look at when we bring on people to work with us. It's like, all right, how difficult is this person going to work with? Are they going to be too married to their idea and only think about themselves in the moment and not, you know, the bigger picture around it? So yeah, it's something that, you know, we always try to keep in mind. What would you all say? Because I see this a lot and I hear it a lot. Clients ask us a lot of the times. They'll say, all right, well, you know, we want to create content, we want to do these things, but we're just too boring. Like, how do you deal with that?
I'll let someone. Okay, I'll kick us off. I truly don't think anything is boring. Everyone has a story to tell, and there is an audience out there that will listen. Dude, like, I watched this TikTok of a guy running and throwing garbage in a truck, but I watched the video all the way through. You know what video I'm talking about?
Oh wait, no, but I'm saying I got stuck on like car detailing TikTok.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm like never
Mowing
detail a
grass?
car, but
Yeah,
I'm
the
like,
mowing
wow,
grass
it's
is what I
was gonna say,
fascinating
the grass
what
one.
they're able to do.
So it's not the business, it's the person telling the story.
Yeah.
Mike.
There was one another one of Justin quotes.
No, but for real. So what I can appreciate about everyone collectively coming together to grow the brand, like nonprofits aren't necessarily sexy, but if we can really find the audience that can understand and want to hear what they have to say, that's who we're making it for. We're not, just like you said in one of the previous episodes, we're not trying to work with everyone. And to like the brands that we work with out there, we're not trying to reach the whole world. We're trying to reach the people that it actually impacts.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, like leaning into that audience. Like it might start with the founder's story, right? That's some energy. That's a person. That's a human. That's someone I can attach this thing to. But once people get in the door and they care about whatever you consider boring, that's what they're passionate about. And they want you to be a thought leader in that space. They want you to keep them up to date on what's changing in that space. And so you're going to have an audience because you have the organization. You launched that business for a reason. There is opportunity there. And so I think maybe starting with that storytelling piece and then leaning into your organization from that core supporter group, which will grow, you know?
So let me ask you guys about content pillars. And the only reason I ask is because everyone's heard content pillar this, content pillar that. How do you guys go about content pillars with the brands that you work with?
So I think for us, I think we often come in from an angle of leaning in with the most scalable asset that we can create, right? Because content is such it's just a long game, but it's expensive to do, and you have to do it right. But I think sometimes people kind of get it misconstrued, thinking that if they create this one piece, then that's going to take their company and their brand to the next level. When in actuality, it's the consistency around you being able to push out something. And so when I think about a content pillar, I think, as we all know, hell, we're on the podcast now, that's one of the best ways to be able to tell your story over and over again, or at least tell a story that your audience cares about over and over again. And so if you think about, spending a day shooting 5 episodes out of your podcast, then that could turn into easily 50, 75, 100 pieces of content just from spending 5 hours having a few cameras set up and having some people who know how to set it up and run it. So I always believe in that being a content pillar. I think there are always things like founder stories, vlogs. We got a few of those going right now. I think web series are really, really cool. I bought a jacket, like one of those jackets that like really ball up, and it's for like the winter. And when I signed up for it, I can't remember where I got it from, but when I signed up for it, they started to deliver like a web series of of this person going through like the various areas out in like maybe Canada. They were like in the woods. Yeah,
wearing the jacket.
Yeah, wearing the jacket, and the content itself had nothing to do with the jacket. It was that brand telling a story around this person that's out there braving the elements, and this brand just shows up in this important point in their life. And so that is another way that people can really, or companies can work to tell brands in a more authentic way. Tell stories in a more authentic way, excuse me.
Yeah, and sometimes I use content pillars as a way to meet people's needs that I don't necessarily agree with. That sounds kind of bad, but let's say I really want to talk about this topic. I know this topic is not going to resonate on social, but it'll be in our list of our top 5 topics, like our top 5 pieces of content. I'll come back to the example. I don't want to name anyone, but let's say like there's something that a founder really wants to talk about, but their organization does other things that you think will perform better. So I'll have like 5 pillars that I try to make sure that each piece of content we share speaks to one of those things, whether it's like innovation or Black excellence or whatever it is. We've come up with these items, and so one of them might get talked about a little less frequently, but you see in the content plan that it's there and that there'll be a moment where we will talk about that. And it also helps you reach different audiences, so those pillars speak to different audiences. Maybe the Black excellence content pillar is a broader, more generic audience, but something that's specific to innovation or specific to like business ownership is that audience. And so I think of content pillars in that way.
Sorry. I was also in that vein, and going back to your question about like boring like content. I was gonna say, like, I'm sure you guys have heard the phrase like every show is someone's favorite show. Yeah. Because there's like so much content out there, but somebody really loves it. And so I think the great thing about having all these different avenues for like content is that there's a like it can be a little niche if you like need it to, or you're okay with that. But I also think we've all heard of like YouTube University or like the educational part of content that you never in a million years would have thought you would be interested in knowing. But then you find yourself like watching the full video because you're like, like, you
Googled one thing and now you're in a rabbit hole from
that
creators. And someone you would have never run across for sure.
Exactly. And so I think for me, on like my side of the internet and on the consumer side, because we're consuming a lot of the people that we're consuming the content of the people that we're working with, I've learned so much from just our clients, and that I never would have thought I would be interested in, but like as I'm watching these videos, I'm like, oh, that's
important actually.
Like that's really good to know. Like I had no idea. And I think there's a way to tap into that as well.
So the reason why I brought this up was I was inspired by this biking company. So to the same thing as the jacket, this biking company had 3 content pillars. One focusing on the build of the bike, the second one focusing on the like actual athletes using the bikes, and then the third one was the bottom funnel, which was a supplement. So the 3 things we're targeting were like all the content was purposeful. Every content had to be about the bike and like its features, the riders and the athletes and what they do with the bike, and then the last one is like recovery. So with brands, how would you? It's different because the brands that you work with aren't necessarily consumer.
Yeah, but I would say you can also kind of segment that out based on like the audience types. Right. So for instance, some of the clients that we work with, they may have a segment that that serves, I don't know, people who are trying to raise money or funders, right? Or another segment of just like entrepreneurs or whatever it may be. So you can kind of build your pillars based off of the actual audience needs are at that moment in which that brand needs to show up along that way.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So yeah, I think that's one of the ways you could do it for sure.
Brian was not trying to talk for that 30 minutes.
I want to say, yo, I had an unk moment for real. Like, come on now. So yeah, all good stuff, man. I mean, one of the things that's really important too is having the wherewithal to like produce content and showing up for your brand and really showing up for the people that you serve. Talk to us, Justin, since you really wanted to answer this. Talk to us about the importance of consistency.
The reason why I tell people consistency over perfection is because if I'd waited till I perfected my craft, I wouldn't be here. I probably wouldn't have like started. Most of the time you just have to start and figure it out from there. And the thing with consistency, if you do a thing every single day, you're eventually going to get good at it. And the thing about being great is like, I mean, starting anything is you're going to suck. Like the first time you do anything, you're going to suck.
Speak for yourself.
Or just not be great.
Everybody not named Kelsey.
Yeah, but you know what's even crazier? There is, I don't even know what it's called, but there's this thing where the less you know about a thing, the more confident you are. But the more that you know about a thing, the less confident you are in that thing. For example, when I had started podcasting, like 2021, me and my twin brother, we had a podcast out. This is how I describe it. We said a lot without saying anything at all. It was a whole hour-long podcast of absolute nonsense. But we were, but we were consistent with it. We actually dropped 20 episodes.
Wow.
We were consistent with it. And what happens is you take the skills from that and kind of just turn it into a business. Yeah,
I think one thing is, excuse me, it's important to note. I think there's also other things that are connected to consistency or lack thereof. When it comes to creating content and the moment you bring out cameras and lights and all these different things, it does something to people. It's either in a positive way or a negative way. And I think positively, you have some people who are more engaging or more natural with cameras and they want to show up and they want to talk about the thing that they're doing. But then you have other people who, the moment you bring out a camera, then it's like a reflection or them and all their flaws being exposed. And so I think all the great content creators have all dealt with that, I would imagine. But how does someone begin to work through those nuances and, just the internal?
I think it's that consistency, right? Because I think all of us, even when we listen to these back, we're going to be like, okay, like, can we cut that part out? Or I feel like I lost my train of thought clearly right there and stuff like that. Like, that was happening to me when we first started recording. I'm like, come on, Kelsey. You know what I mean? You don't suck at first, right? But it happens to everyone. I think being consistent, showing up, knowing that it doesn't matter. So those creators who keep sharing and they keep seeing the results that they want, or they keep getting new clients and book for more opportunities, it's because it's like, you know what? I was overanalyzing that and no one cared, or these people loved it over here. And so I think that consistency and not being perfect is a great example of that.
And what I wanted to say was, the reason why I love speaking on consistency is because it's what I do myself. And it's just a case study of what I've been able to do just because I've been consistent with my content. And on top of that, the reason why I love making sure that my clients have a month's worth of content is because I need to make sure that they show up every month. Now, what does bother me is we work for like 2 months together and they're like, oh, like I'm not seeing any progress. Well, consistency doesn't mean you do it every single day for 2 months. It means you keep going, right? And the thing is, you have to, someone had told me something and it was really deep. It was I'm really going to butcher it. But you basically can't expect anything from it, like from being consistent, until it comes.
And you really never know who is actively watching that.
There we go.
Yeah.
You think, oh, I don't have 10,000 views on this, but you don't know that 4 or 5 people who actively watch it. Like when we talked before, my referrals largely came from when I kind of started showing up more in social spaces and people being like, oh my God, I forgot that Kelsey does marketing. And I work, you know, your friends are matriculating, right? And they're like, and I work here and they need someone. And it's like, oh, you do that and you shared about it. I didn't want to, or maybe I was like, this is not going to do anything. This didn't get a lot of likes or as much engagement as some other stuff. But there's someone that's watching it
Yeah.
that like plugged you into something. You never know.
Do you ever tell your clients that it's just one person you're speaking to? I say that all the time. It's like you're making a video for one person.
Yeah.
And it eases their nerves, but two, it's just like, yeah, like all I want to do is make sure I get that one person to watch my content, remind them that I'm in this service-based industry, that I run this kind of business, that I do this thing.
Getting one person to convert, you know.
You just-
That's it.
yeah.
That's all it takes.
You were going to say
That's all it
something?
takes.
I was gonna say, it's funny you said that because I was just watching an interview. I think it was like Tyler, the Creator, and he was talking about like the same thing, like consistency. And he was like, I come across YouTube videos that have like 10 views, but like he's one of the 10. It's like,
Yeah.
but
And
he
they don't
really
know
liked
that
it,
it's him.
and it's
Yeah.
you know like. Yeah, you're not trying to cater to everybody, and you never know like who it is that's looking that, you know, as long as you're consistent and they see you keep going, that could end up being like a business partner
Yeah.
or like a large supporter or whatever. So yeah.
But you guys already know this, like musicians out there, just to switch it to another lane. Do you know how much music people like Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Taylor Swift, Drake, they've put out hundreds and hundreds of songs. But how many hits do they have? The ratio is like 20% or something like that. I saw the
They
statistic
have a good
there.
amount of hits, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But it's like
The
the
volume.
volume, like, and then you think about it, the name of the game is output. The amount of output dictates the success.
Yep.
Is what I would say.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear, because I think we've all seen it in our own ways, right? When we take a client or someone that we worked with and a client that only posts or puts out content every so often versus one that does it daily or multiple times a day. Like how many times have we seen where it's like, yo, this particular brand right now is crushing it because they just keep pumping out shit. Like,
Yeah.
I'll give you a good example, Formula One. So I was in Montreal shooting for Formula One, but then when I went on their page, they post like during the events, they'll
Yeah.
post like 4 or
Their
5 times a
tour-
day.
their
Oh
tour
my
was
God.
crazy. Yeah, they made that up.
And there's a reason why they're still fast growing. There's a reason why they're as big as they are,
Yeah.
because it's all about brand awareness. And how do you continue to elevate your brand awareness? Continue to put out content as often as you can. And that's why I love when we shoot with BIA, like the masterminds that they shoot, master classes, the speaking engagements. There's so much content to be made.
Well, good people, I think it's a good time to wrap this up, I believe. What
You
are we looking like
hungry?
on time? Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Kelsey must be hungry because she asked me that. Like,
What?
Cut this out too.
see how she treats me, man. Where's the camera at? Where's my camera
They don't
at? Is
see
it
it
this
because
one?
it's cut out.
Oh my God. Another good conversation. We're going to keep cranking these things out. Again, if you want to hear more about the podcast, go to, I don't know where we're going to host. It's going to be on streaming platforms, but it'll be on the Carbon Threads website. So that's www.thecarbonthread.com. Find us on social at The Carbon Thread. All love, but we'll see y'all the next time around. Cool.
Hi everyone.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Heavy on Brand podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And if you need more information on all things marketing and branding, check us out at thecarbonthread.com. Until next time, stay heavy.